All right, Brent Porter at TopVelocity.net. We're going to break down two brothers here. We have Brent Wheatley and Bob Wheatley. Bob is a lefty in minor league ball. Brent is a righty, USC. Bob is a high 80s, low 90s guy. Brent is a more low 90s to mid 90s guy. So interesting to see, same genetics here. What's separating the two besides, throwing arm? So give us some ideas as we go forward. So speeds is inches per frame, distance from origins, back foot from the rubber, X, Y position, X, say linear measurement, and then Y is the vertical measurement. So let's, both 18 frames the front foot, 12 is about the leg drive, where the leg drive starts. So let's go to 8. Okay, we can see from here we have Bob moving 10 inches from the rubber to Brent's 11. Now if it says negative, it's just because it's the left side of the origin, so ignore that. Interesting to see that Bob is even a little bit farther behind Brent in his right hip to left hip, but Bob is 29 inches to the ground, or from the ground to Brent's 38, so 10 inches lower. So Brent is moving, starting momentum early, or a little bit earlier than Bob, but not moving down as much. Speeds are the same, 1.6. Let's take to about like frame 12 where the leg drive starts. We see Brent still ahead at 18.9 inches to 17.9, but still Bob a lot lower, more flexed on the leg. And we're both, basically the same size. We see Bob, though, moving a little faster here. Could be that the leg drive is starting at this point. But look at the knees, though. Left knee is 7 inches to right knee 7 inches. So the knees are similar. It's just Bob is more loaded. I mean, it's significantly more, 8 inches more down, lower down to the ground at this point. Okay. So let's go to front foot strike. At this point, the back hip is 42 to Brent's 34, so Bob really accelerates at this point. So pretty much from 12 to 18, Bob takes off past Brent. So let's watch the back knee at the speeds of it. It goes 3.3, 3.7, 3.9. Okay. Let's watch Brent's back knee, 1.4, 2, 2.6, 3.1, 3.7, 4.8. Okay, so he does get into those speeds, and he gets into them later. So he's peaking those speeds, and that's because he's holding torsion. His speeds are peaking later. So if we look at his back knee speed, it peaks frame 17. If we look at Bob's back knee speed, it peaks 16, or roughly one frame before. So Bob's about 2 frames ahead of Brent on the peaking of the back leg speeds. Okay, so of course too, if we go into front foot, we're going to see a longer stride. So he peaked his speeds later. Brent's peaked his speeds later, but didn't push as linear. So could have been, even though Bob was earlier, Bob was definitely more linear with his drive. So he was able to abduct that leg more through that movement. So if we land at front foot strike, we see right toe for Bob is 75, left toe for Brent is 44. Or no, that's wrong. 69. So 6 inches more stride length at this point, where Brent was leading most of the way. Now Bob accelerates. So just as much speed coming out of the leg, just peaking it later. Bob also too engaging more of the lower leg. We don't see a lot of lower leg drive here out of Brent. So this Bob is opening his stride length more. But the question is, definitely more force production here, moving you out, but the force could be generated too early. Front foot strike, we see if we had front views, we would see definitely Brent is in more horizontal abduction. You can see that elbow is pulled back more behind the shoulder, and Bob here, the elbow is more in line with that shoulder. We do see less of the glove slide shoulder than Brent, so there could be less. There's definitely more shoulder rotation coming out of Bob. Okay, probably in Bob same time too has more hip rotation. So that's the whole thing here. Bob, we've learned from Brent is that Bob needs to peak forces later. So peaking knee forces at frame 15, 16 to Bob's 17, I think is significant. Allows Bob to get a longer stride, but it starts his trunk too early, which means less time behind the ball, really. So let's see when Brent's hips fully open, what they peak at. Or he peaks at a 5.3 here, and then his shoulder speeds peak 2 frames later. Okay, so 2 frames of, you could say, separation timing. Bob's hip speeds peak 6.9, and then shoulder speeds peak next frame. So the point of hips opening for Bob is here, and you're not seeing a lot of separation. The point of hips opening here for Brent is here, and we're seeing a little bit more separation because next frame Bob's elbow is a little bit more forward in line with the shoulder here. So I'm feeling I'm sensing a little bit more shoulder separation coming out of Brent, and that's the result of peaking forces later in the back leg. So if we watch the chins going forward at front foot strike, Brent's at 41 to pitch release, or after pitch release 59. So that's 18. See, Bob is at 51 to after pitch release 69, and that's 18. So identical, just Bob's closer to the target. Okay. Also, too, he's lower to the ground. If we even see the chin height, it's 37 inches to 46. So he's farther out. We see a 42-degree angle here. Let's look at Brent's angle. Wrong way. To 46. So just a little bit more linear angle. Definitely a more linear front leg, more than likely, if we look at that. Let's go to the hip, to the ankle, and once again, wrong way. $58 degrees there. I just picked the wrong ways every time. One sec. There we go. So similar, looks a little bit more vertical front leg. So because Bob was lower, but Brent is getting more front leg extension. So if we go back and we look at the knee at front foot, Bob's right knee. Let's see, right knee is at 63. Drifts 2 inches, comes back. Drifts about it. So I guess kind of holds that position. Okay, and then comes back. Let's see Brent here. Left knee 58. Holds. Comes back. Comes back. Comes back. Very significant front leg. So Bob's getting a more linear back leg, even though those forces come early, giving him a longer stride. So he is getting more perceived velocity, but Brent's getting a shorter, less back leg force production, but more front leg force production. I don't even know if it's less back leg force production, because the force production is later, could be more effective. And if we looked at the hip rotation speeds, they hit, they hit a 5. Look at Bob's hip rotation speeds. Okay, hit a 6.9. So more here, but those speeds, those forces were too early, causing trunk rotation to go too early, not separating as well. And the chin distances were the same, but what were the chin speeds? Let's see, 5.7, 6.5, 4. Okay, let's look at Bob here, chin speeds 6.8, 7.8, 5, 2. So Bob, good chin speeds. So I think just looking at this, it comes down to generating back leg force later, peaking it later, not allowing trunk rotation to start early, gives them more time to load the arm, more separation between the two, and more front leg activity to really accelerate this, because you have two guys that don't have a lot of mobility in their bodies. So starting movements late allow them to, Brent loses stride length, but he gains more separation and more later force production with that front leg activity. Bob gets closer to the hitter, but unable to get that late force production, things all wanting to go early. So I think Bob can gain some of Brent's speeds by peaking later, and he can afford that, being 6 inches ahead of Brent, so he could start to delay back leg forces, create more separation. He will lose some stride length, but he'll gain velocity in return, which will be probably more effective for him right now. So hope that helped.